Please welcome Joshua Green. Josh, so your last book, Devil's Bargain, was about Steve Bannon and the rise of far-right populism. This book is looking at the far left and the rise of populism and the progressive movement. Is this what you brought us for Valentine's Day?
I'm giving you the gift of a book that's not about Trump or Biden or the depressing presidential rematch that's going to dominate our lives for the next 9 months.
Yes,
that's my gift to you this Valentine's Day.
Thank you. This is a respite. For people who need a break, read about Bernie Sanders.
There you go. He'll cheer you up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You talk about this book, about the rise of the left and the progressive movement and populism. And also you talk about how it has a symbiotic relationship with the more moderate wing and the Joe Biden side of it all. Talk to me how you see those two things working symbiotically.
Yeah, well, I mean, the book starts in 2008 because I date the rise of this left populist movement to the reaction from the financial crisis. And after that, everybody was angry. There was a big backlash. On the right, it led to the Tea Party and to Donald Trump. But on the left, it gave rise to people like Warren, who were able to articulate the deep dissatisfaction a lot of Americans had with the fact that the government was bailing out Wall Street banks, but that they weren't helping the middle class. And, you know, over the years, we saw with the rise of Warren, who used her platform, including places like The Daily Show, to spread this message. You saw the rise of Bernie Sanders in his presidential race. And ultimately, this just became an important part of Democratic Party politics. And when Donald Trump won, I think it woke up a lot of Democratic officials who said, gosh, we better listen to these people. And Joe Biden's presidency has really managed to kind of unite the populists and the moderates. He's put into place a lot of things that Warren and Bernie and AOC have argued for. And so we're heading into the November election with Democrats really unified behind Joe Biden.
Now, that's interesting. It's interesting you say that.
Mostly unified.
Mostly unified. Because I theoretically see that. It doesn't seem as if that is the feeling, I would say, most Democrats. They don't feel like they're lining up, charged, ready to vote for Joe Biden right now. I think a lot of more far-left Democrats still feel like their voices aren't being heard. How are their voices being heard and seen through a vessel like Joe Biden?
Well, I think you can look at it two different ways. At the national level, all of the important left-wing Democrats, including my three characters, have all come out and endorsed Biden. Nobody decided to run against him, which they could have if they wanted to. And even AOC, who's had some problems with him lately, came out yesterday and said she thought he was one of the best presidents in recent U.S. history. So they're pretty much united. But when it comes to the actual kind of rank and file of left-leaning voters, especially younger voters, there is a lot of dissatisfaction with Biden. Maybe that's because of his age. He's kind of old. He looks like grandpa. Maybe it's because of his position.
Kind of old.
Really old and looks a lot like
grandpa. He looks like grandpa, sure, yes.
Yeah. So does Trump. But
yes, they're both quite old, sure. Yes.
Yeah. But the challenge for Biden is going to be how can he bring those younger people back into his coalition? And I think one hope is that, my characters will be effective surrogates. It's either that or he's going to have to count on, going on TikTok and trying to attract them in other unorthodox ways that maybe the Biden campaign is going to be so good at.
Well, I'm curious, you talk a lot about economic populism and what people across America really want, and that this movement sort of started from people being disaffected post-2008. Yeah. You spent a lot of time out in the field. You're covering this election. I was recently in South Carolina, and Biden has pretty good numbers right now when it comes to the economy. The stock market's up. Inflation seems to be going down. We have unemployment that is incredibly low right now. But when I talk to the MAGA folks, those aren't the indicators that they care about. Partially because...
I'm shocked.
Yes. But I think sometimes it's a political dodge. But sometimes what they focus on is gas. And oftentimes gas could never be low enough for folks. But housing is an indicator that they feel like the Biden administration is not dealing with, and the real people in America are frustrated with that as an indicator. Like, are the Democrats missing that conversation, looking at the middle parts of America and what they're actually disaffected by?
No, I don't think they're missing it. And there's been a ton of worry about inflation, of course. That's been the main challenge that Biden has had to deal with. And you hear that from Republicans, independents, and Democrats. Unless you spent the last 3 years, only eating at a Taco Bell, you've probably experienced price inflation, and you're not real happy about it.
Sure. I bet also you're not really happy about it if you spent the last few years just eating that.
There would be other reasons too, yeah. Look, you know, people's views of the economy are looked at through the lens of political partisanship. It's true for Democrats. They were very unhappy about the economy, polls said, when Donald Trump was president. So there's a certain group of people, and they're MAGA Republicans, who are probably never going to be happy with the state of the economy under Joe Biden. But what you really need to look at are Democrats and independents. And the one thing that Biden really has going for him, running for re-election, is that, you know, he dealt with the deepest financial crash we've had since the great financial crisis, the one that followed the COVID crash, by doing what my characters wanted him to do, what Warren and Sanders did. We had 3 rounds of stimulus and beefed up unemployment benefits and student loan freezes. And the economy 3 years later is in really strong shape, as you pointed out. So Biden's best hope is that, you know, in the ensuing 9 months, people are not going to be able to ignore all these positive signs. Their 401k is going to go up. They're going to get a good job. They're going to feel more positive. And we can see measures like consumer sentiment that have turned around pretty strongly. So that, you know, the way I think of Biden's reelection is like, it's not like the Olympics where you have to put up a perfect score. You just have to do better than the other guy. And things are trending in a direction where, you know, it's like that's at least an attainable goal, we hope, right?
The world's slowest 100-yard dash.
The world, yeah, exactly. Yes.
We're still running. We're still running. It's interesting you say that he needs to articulate those successes. But since you wrote this book, we've had what's happening with Israel and Palestine. And I think we are starting to see a real shift in the Democratic Party. Obviously, AOC's response, probably not surprising to folks. But Bernie and Warren have been vocally critical of Bibi, leaving Biden in a weird location right now. How do you see him squaring that with a party that he needs to win over, and these rebels, as you call them, clearly taking a much stronger tact?
You know, it's a great question. I mean, in a lot of ways, the story of my book is the story of how Democrats came together on economics over the last 15 years. But just in the last couple of months, we've seen a new fissure open up between the left and the center and the Democratic Party over Israel. And it's something that I think kind of has taken the Biden White House by surprise. Biden initially came out and was very much pro-Netanyahu, and then as things went south in Gaza, and you could see the rebellion of the left flank, of ordinary rank-and-file voters, but also of important elected Democrats like AOC, like Bernie Sanders. It's a problem that they don't really know how to square. And so you've seen the White House express concern and all these kind of Washington buzzwords, but I don't think that that's really satisfying anyone. And that's something they're going to have to figure out, because in a divided country like we've had, in what's, I'm sure, shaping up to be a 50-50 election, they're going to need every vote they can get. And these are a group of voters right now, people who are upset about Israel's campaign in Palestine, that at least don't tell pollsters that they're real excited to vote for Joe Biden right now.
What do you see the Democratic Party reflecting? Is it reflecting more of an AOC version of the Democratic Party, or is it a Biden's version?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if you look at where the Democratic Party is today vis-a-vis where it was, let's say in 2008 during the last crash at the beginning of the book, completely different party. Like when I came to Washington as a reporter in 2000, Biden was considered so pro-corporate that we used to kind of jokingly call him the senator from corporate America. But if you flash forward 15 years to Joe Biden as president today, he's out walking on UAW picket lines, instituted a recovery plan that was geared so much toward the middle class, that pushed so much money out the door to working people that actually caused inflation. And you look at what it is that politicians like Warren and Sanders have called for. And I think there's really a large degree of unity on economics. And that's one reason why the party has remained unified behind Joe Biden. So I think he's come a long way in kind of melding the two wings of the party in a way that really kind of points the direction forward for Democrats generally, I think. I don't think we're ever going to go back to a time when, if there's another financial crisis, Democrats are going to hand all the money to Wall Street banks. I think they've learned that lesson. And I think Joe Biden's success in 2020, and if he has success in 2024, will help to underline that message.
Well, it's a great read. The Rebels is available now. Josh Green, everybody.